But I'm not. Luckily now in the position to find or meet any new co-founders. I think that we are pretty good as we are right now. And but if I didn't have one, then I would just.
In this episode, down with Duke Wu, a serial entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO at Fungies.io, an AI-powered store builder revolutionizing how software and game developers sell their digital products. Duke isn't new to the startup grind. He's built and exited companies, scaled marketplaces, and even raised millions in token sales. His journey is nothing short of inspiring, and in this conversation, he shares hard-won insights into the world of gaming, SaaS, and fintech. He shares hard-won insights about gaming, SaaS, and fintech. I don't know if you noticed, I became your customer.
Oh, really? I sorry, I haven't noticed. Like, can you tell me the workspace? Maybe we can.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk.
Okay.
I have some challenges that I
Okay.
would need help. But yeah, it's a good fit, and maybe this is a good segue to talk about Fungies and what you guys are doing and what you're solving for people.
Yeah, so Fungies is a merchant of record payment platform for SaaS and gaming companies. Our goal is to ease the pain of having to be compliant with taxes from day one when you should be really focused on building the software for or your app. We take care of payments, we take care of taxes, we are liable for chargebacks and refunds. We have in place a fraud management system to file the fraudsters. You as a software developer, if you are creating a new app, you should be 100% focused on creating a product. And we would take care of subscription management, of payment management, and also taxes for you. And so that is the role of merchant of record. We are also present in the space of game developers. Our platform allows game developers, publishers to sell their games or in-game assets directly to consumers. That's in accordance with direct-to-consumer strategy that a lot of companies such as Supercell and Playtika, they have been executing, selling those assets and games directly to consumers without the 30% fee from Apple and Google for them to do.
Cool. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, when people enter into different geographies to sell their digital goods, you take care of the taxes and compliance.
Exactly. If you are creating, let's say, an AI text to video app, right? And you probably gonna sell that app to a worldwide audience. Like if you're an AI company, then you probably don't have to be limited by geography. So you're gonna be probably ending up as selling to customers worldwide, be it companies or end users or consumers. The easiest way to sell your software is via merchant of record. Because if you're gonna do it on your own, either as an individual or as a company, you are liable for taxes in the geographies or countries which you are selling to the customers to. So, as an example, let's say you are a German software developer and you are selling to Polish end users or consumers. You have to pay 23% VAT tax in Poland. And so you are liable as an individual, as a company, to pay those taxes in Poland. Yeah, and if you're looking to sell worldwide from day one with your top software and you want to be tax compliant from day one, you should go with the merchant of record. I mean, you can also use Stripe as your PSP or processing partner, but then again, you still are labeled.
Yeah, in terms of the gaming community, you do have a focused solution there as a niche. Do you want to elaborate a little about how uh, painful it is in the App Store ecosystem for game developers and why there is a trend of moving off App Store in
Yeah,
terms of
so
payment?
this whole thing, I guess, was set off by this card battle between Epic Games and Apple. So you're familiar with that. The CEO of Epic Games did sue Apple over, let's say, anti-monopoly or monopoly practices of Apple, which forbid Epic Games to create their own store or marketplace inside the App Store ecosystem. And this ongoing battle has been going on for years now. And so has shed the light on some of the practices and that Google and Apple have been doing to ensure the monopoly in the app marketplaces businesses. And one of them is, for example, site loading. So when you have your iPhone, you can't possibly install any app outside of the App Store. So that's called site loading. And in some cases, at least in Europe, you now can site load your app to Apple. And that's in accordance with the newest, the DMA from Europe that was enforced last year. So the Digital Market Acts largely have forced Google and Apple to be more open, to have a more open ecosystem for all developers to freely compete with the app stores. That's number one. And freely redirect users from the apps to the outside stores if they wish to. So a lot of companies have taken advantage of that. So Playtika, for example, is one of the largest casino mobile games in the world, having a few $1 billion of revenue every year. And so they've been experimenting with direct-to-consumer strategies for a couple of years now. And for those companies, Apple and Google takes 30% from that's a lot of money. Like you were making $6 billion, $2 billion probably from Google and Apple fees. You have to find ways to work on your bottom line of the business. And so to be more profitable in the era of IDFA, which means that even in a lot of cases, you can't track users inside the Apple and Google ecosystem. You have so the cost of installs are up and affects your bottom line as a business. So they have to be creative about how to reach those consumers directly. So one of the best ways to do that is creating a web store where you can freely interact with the game, buy in-game assets without the 30% fee coming from marketplaces from Google or from Apple. And so there's this whole trend of companies, enterprises like Supercell and Playtika, other mobile gaming companies building their own web store ecosystem so that they can avoid the 30% commission. But those are enterprises. Those are the big companies which have hundreds or thousands of employees. They are capable of creating their own team to create that web store. A web store is nothing else than just like an e-commerce store where you could sell in-game goods from your mobile game. But the difference is that you sell, those are digital goods and those goods are connected with your mobile game. So anything that you buy on the web, on the e-commerce store, it is integrated with your account in your mobile game. But building a web store is a tremendous amount of work because one, you have to create the design for the store. Two, you have to integrate payments, integrate checkout, product page, search. There's so many things that you have to do from scratch if you're building a web store for your mobile game. So bigger companies, they can afford themselves to pay for a team for a couple of months of investment for more than a year of investment into creating the web store for their games. Why the rest of the market, which are SMBs, smaller developers, well, they don't have access to such amount of money to invest into those things. And so that's why, that's the context of us creating a web store, also solution for mobile gaming companies and PC gaming companies, so that with just plug and play, you can just create your web store with just a few clicks without no coding. I mean, there is some basic low code, say, requirement, but you don't have to invest yourself into a team of developers to create your e-commerce web store. With just a couple of clicks, you can do that within our platform.
Cool. And so it's almost like Shopify for like game developers.
Yeah. We call that Shopify for mobile or PC game developers, and we think that that's the future. You have Steam where there's probably this year there's going to be 20,000 games being released on Steam. There's going to be dozens of thousands of new mobile game apps in the app stores. The chances are when you create your game or your new title, the players, they won't be able to find that. And to compete with other gaming publishers and companies is really hard. So I think that the future is in self-distribution, where in self-publishing, where you have your own community, you have your own distribution channel, which is going to be your web store, and you can sell those games or in-game assets directly to consumers. That's going to take some time for the whole game development industry to get used to.
Interesting. And so You spoke about not being able to identify their gamers. I didn't follow that bit because regardless of whether you're buying things from the web store or the app store, when you can clearly tell I'm not a gamer, I barely play.
I'm gonna just try to explain that in very simple terms. Let's say 10 years ago, you saw, as an example, Angry Birds. You know Angry Birds.
Of course,
And,
yeah.
and Angry Birds is an example of a casual game, which means there's not much mechanic. It's the gameplay is pretty straightforward, and there's not much depth into the gameplay, which means that there's not a lot of grinding, and also you don't have to put a lot of hours into making your gameplay experience more, let's say, enjoyable. You can spend up to an hour just playing the game. So those are called casual, or even in some cases now they call it hyper casual games, where you could spend like 15 minutes in your subway from when you're riding to work. You can play a game that is super basic in mechanics. Those are hyper casual games. With the birth of casual and hyper casual games, there came a thing called in-game advertising, which means when you're offering a game for free to play, one of your core ways to make money is to offer in-game advertising, because the game is free, it's free to download. The only way for a developer to make money is from advertisement. And now comes more hybrid casual or like mid-core games where there's more depth to the gameplay. You have to spend money to buy in-game purchases, to buy those in-game items. And in all of those cases, the mobile game developer has to spend money to acquire users or acquire customers. So we have apps, flyer, a lot of ad networks that you plug into, and then create advertisements for your game, and you pay for Facebook or Google or those ad networks. You pay every time clicks on an ad or they install the game on their phone, right? So every time someone installs the game on their phone, the developer is charged. Every time you click on the ad, the developer is charged. It's called CPC or CPI, which is CPC, which is cost per click. Every time you click, it generates a revenue for the ad network and a cost for a mobile game developer. CPI, which means cost per install, means you as a developer, you have to pay for, let's say, $1 or $2 per install of the user to the ad network. There's something called Apple called IDFA, which means that you could identify users that when you are a mobile game developer, you make it an ad. Let's say John is your player, and you know that is John who installed the game. And you know because you have the, let's say, the tracking data for their phone, right? And you know that John saw the ad, you know that John installed the app, and you know that John plays the game throughout, right? And that is before the revolution, the IDFA, which means the privacy tracking policy that Apple enforced. And that was before, right? You knew that was John. You knew that that guy installed the game, and you could track all his movements across all the apps in the app store, right? So you know that he used Facebook, you know that he used Instagram, and then you could show your game in Instagram ads, in Facebook ads, because you know that John really likes your game, and so you're gonna show the ads to him. Even if he didn't install the app, then he's gonna see the ads across the mobile ad network. And so it means that you have a way to reach John because you know that John likes your game. And so you're going to show the ads to him. And so it means that when ads are personalized, the cost of install is going to be lower. Then you're going to just shoot the ads to everyone that some of them, most of them wouldn't be interested in your game anyway. Right? And so that's like a shotgun type of advertising where nothing is personalized, where a personalized ad bears lower cost of install. And so that was before the privacy tracking policy that Apple enforced. After IDFA, in so-called post-IDFA world, when you are a game or mobile developer, you are advertising in mobile game networks, you don't know that John is John. Your whole overall cost of marketing or advertising is going to be up. And also the cost per install is going to be way up because you can't precisely show the ads to people that are interested in playing your game.
Makes sense. Speaking about distribution, payment startups are fairly horizontal in some way, right? You can attract all kinds of businesses because you can solve problem for them, because most businesses want to collect payment. For yourself as a business, how did you zone in gaming and how do you think about distribution in general?
We started out with NFT infrastructure for Web3 games. We were very much involved in the crypto Web3 space. And we are also, me and my co-founder Wojciech, we are super fans of World of Warcraft, Diablo, all the Blizzard games, and we have been playing those games for years and years now. And one of the things that we always wondered was how on earth we can access our hard-earned in-game items from Diablo years and years after we stop playing the game. Like how we can make those in-game assets independent of the game itself. And so the idea was to, and I still think that's a great idea, how to make the in-game items from the games independent from the games itself, which means that you can have decentralized database of assets of the games. And so that's where blockchain could help. And you could literally keep your assets on the blockchain, on a digital ledger, or in a decentralized way, so that the game dies or the servers shut off. You still own that asset. You own it in a way that is not accessible by any other partner in your wallet, right? And those are let's say appeal NFTs for games. You could essentially keep those assets as NFTs on the blockchain from the games themselves. There were a lot of successes in the Web3 gaming space: Axie Infinity, Ghost Unchained, Pixel lately within the Ronin chain. Our idea was to implement a platform where you could easily implement that blockchain or decentralized asset system to any game. So that's how Fungies was founded, under the premises of creating a platform where you could essentially decentralize your game asset distribution. So that could also mean that you could freely trade with other players without going into the game, without involvement in any sort in the game. You could trade, buy, sell those NFTs on the blockchain, on the ledger, between wallets and wallets. And that was the idea. And that was how we also came into the whole gaming space. But I think the promise of decentralized assets is great in theory. In practice, well, a lot of players don't even know what NFTs are. They even hate NFTs for all this connotation of being scams. And that is the same for game developers. And so a lot of them thought, that is unnecessary technology. Why do we need that? I'm just going to create a game and I'm going to sell that on Steam. It's going to die someday, but who gives a fuck? Those assets going to be gone, right? And the players don't give a fuck. The whole thing really, I think, was kind of like great narrative from the crypto community. But at the end, the reality is that no one wanted to implement that. 90% wouldn't even want any crypto NFT part into the game. I think Fungies had a great idea, but I think we failed miserably in enforce. It was literally enforcing Web3 or crypto into the game development community. It didn't succeed. There's no way of succeeding. I think the negative connotation of NFTs within the game industry is very deep, and there's no way you can fight that. But we saw other things. We saw that Supercell and Playtika and the whole mobile game industry was going into the self-distribution direct to consumer space. And those were very early days in 2021, 2022. Those were the very first web stores from those gaming companies. And we thought, if those enterprises, they make money from that, they are far better of that than selling in the app stores, why don't we make a platform where anyone can create their own web store? So let's say democratizing the web store creation for SMBs and all the smaller indie developers of mobile games and also PC games. And that's we came into the game development space. We naturally, let's say, pivoted that Web3 infrastructure into the web store infrastructure. But along the way, we got asked many times by other developers, not just game developers, but also SaaS developers, can I use your software to sell my software in the web store? Like, sure, you can. We will make it that way. That and let's say a natural pull from the market from those software developers asking us to make the web store or make this whole checkout order management process also available for software developers. And that's how we got also into software. And so at the end of the day, I think that whatever the market tells us to do, we follow. If we see game developers joining our platform, creating web stores, so be it. That's the added value for them. If the software developers, they need like a subscription management, checkout platform, and payment platform for their software, so be it. For both groups, we have something, and we try to accommodate our platform to both of their needs.
An interesting story. I mean, the tech can be as sexy as you want, but if users don't find it useful, or if they find it too overtly complex, they won't adopt it. This has been a very common thread that a lot of people are discussing. How is the future going to look like? Given that so few people can build so much with the tooling that is out there, I do agree the number of apps are going to explode massively in the next 3 to 5 years. The infra layer is obviously very protected. What are some of the other areas that someone could look into and be AI proof? Have you thought about the other areas? Like what you're doing seems pretty safe from AI, at least for now.
Yes. At least for now, let's see how it goes. But I don't think anyone can feel safe with AI taking your jobs, and these this whole narrative. This is always something that my dad told me. Like my dad used to set up like a lot of businesses. Like he was like this kind of multipreneur kind of type. We was very bored with a certain business sometimes. So he just created a lot of business in all these years. And I observed him as a kid growing up, seeing him try different things. Like he was a restaurant owner, and he was an import-export guy. He made his own furniture and sold the furniture and a lot of things. And so he always told me, well, son, if you're going to do business, do something that is going to last for a long time. Do something that people will always want for a very long time, which means, let's say that you create a restaurant. Food is something people always will want. Eating out is going to last forever, right? And people will have to eat. Buying things, clothes, furniture, like buying homes, renting homes, travel, going from place to places, also transport, mobility. Those things are always going to be there, independent of how technology is going to evolve. Because people will have to move, people will have to eat, and people will have to wear something. And those are the long-lasting businesses that, I think that a lot of European companies are still tend to be in that area of producing electricity and producing luxury goods. And the US and the American companies are especially good at creating new things, especially in the software and hardware space with NVIDIA and AI. And my thoughts on this is that there are industries out there that could be long lasting. I think payment is something that is always going to be there. Payment processing, banks, fintech in general, like how you store your wealth, how you're going to invest your wealth, stock investments and crypto and blockchain investments. I think those are pretty safe bets to be still present in 10 or 20 years. I don't know if metaverse is going to be here. That billions already have been invested into Apple and glasses, and also the Quest glasses from Meta. I'm not sure. I don't know if people are going to be like in metaverse, like meeting other people, like just having the second life. Not sure about that. I'm pretty sure about that. There are so many things. I think healthcare is a great example of technology being disrupted there. But I think there's still going to be the need for all kinds of medicines and discovering new drugs. I think that's going to be long lasting. Energy, how to store energy. Man, there's so many things, but I think it's safe to say that payments, taxes, they're all things that are going to be long lasting, going to be, I would say, hard to penetrate if you're using AI. Like there's no way that you can do. You have to pay taxes.
Taxes are always going to be there.
Taxes are always going to be there.
Well, they're gonna at least push deaths for a while, I think. For
Brian Johnson for a while, hacking and prolonging your health. I mean, he has a point. Like, if you take care of yourself and you have all these routines and how well you're gonna eat, you are gonna prolong your life. And some of his tips I've been using lately. At least my friends and my family have been telling me that it has some effect on me. So I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, good habits are needed. I think his experiment is extreme. Hats off to him.
That's too extreme for me.
Start
Like,
doing that.
replacing a whole, what was it called? Plasma? I mean, it's some extreme.
That is so extreme. Sorry, I lost my thread.
Yeah, let's just go to the notes.
Yeah, so we were talking about game. We were talking about how hard it is to enter a market like gaming where there is a very tight knit community. One of the hacks that works in those scenarios is you solve an existing problem that is a smaller problem that is very visible to them and win their trust. Have you thought about building like a app publisher or a game publisher to all these multiple stores in one go, and that being a small tool that exposes you guys as a brand for the web stores?
Yeah, we have this idea of building like distribution hub, like a global distribution hub. But it doesn't mean that you with one from one place you can distribute your game to the app or to Steam. They have separate processes. The central hub would mean that you could distribute to, for example, to mobile carrier networks. And so you buy a phone from them. And what comes always into your phone is their, let's say, app store, that their own app store in your phone pre-installed, right? And those are the other ways, third-party distribution ways for game developers to plug into mobile carrier networks, phones, or app stores outside of Apple and Google's app stores, mainstream app stores, and distribute there. And so our idea is to, let's say, talk with all of these global mobile carrier networks. And then you could, let's say, create a central hub for those mobile developers to not distribute to Apple and Google, but you could also distribute to mobile network of like carrier network phones to all those users. But that's another way also of distribution. But we got instantly hooked into this whole AI and software development work. We essentially build something for the entire mobile gaming and PC gaming industry to self-distribute and self-publish. That is usable. That is a ready piece of software that is ready to be sold. Let's just say that we are putting more emphasis into, let's say, evolving the software for software developers and SaaS and AI developers more than now
The
gaming side. So there are two things to this. One is the hard thing about distributing to the existing close-knit game development community. It is very hard to penetrate. Like we had a year going from conferences to gaming conferences, contacting them, and it's way too hard. And so if that's too hard or something that people are not willing to use, then as good as it sounds on paper, and we still are really big believers of self-distribution and direct-to-consumer in the coming years, if something is not easily sold, then I don't think that we have the product market fit for that part of the product, right? If there's not a pull from the market, and if you feel like it's so hard to sell something, it just means that you should pivot or choose another segment of the market, right?
Yeah, I read somewhere yesterday product market fit feels like wearing meat in a dog park, a meat suit.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yes.
Unless the dogs are chasing you, yeah, it's probably the right call.
Yeah, if I can feel that, like I've created a couple of companies now, and I can feel that where our customers are pulling us, like there's a pull on the market. If they're asking for features, if they're asking for feedback, if they're asking, Discord channels, via emails, via chatbot, like how do I use your webhook? Like in this webhook response, there's an error and you guys should fix that. Or there's an error in your API, please fix that. Or please include like multi-currency or multi-language in checkout because I'm selling to customers worldwide. Like those are signs of product market fit where customers and users ask you to provide some features and also ask you to fix the bug because they can't live with that bug. Like, it's so itchy. You have to fix that bug, and it just means that they care, and that's a sure sign of at least some kind of product market fit for us, where we haven't seen that in the game development space.
Apart from chasing PMF and solidifying it, what are some of the other big challenges right now?
Fundraising always. I think the prevalent wisdom of moving to San Francisco and staying there to fundraise. I think it's true. If you want to succeed, you play in the big league, you have to move to San Francisco, to Bay Area, and just stay there and network there and just raise Series A, B, C, D from there. Like, there's no way, there's no other place on earth that you have access to such amount of capital and such amount of talent and investors in one place. In our case, we are still in Europe. Like, we have a C Corp Delaware company. We specifically created an American-based company just because of future exits and also future fundraising. At this stage, we are still able to raise up to a few $1 million pretty comfortably in Europe. I mean, there's money out there and available to us, but still fundraising is a challenge. I think that as a founder, I think everyone has to find their own way of fundraising. I mean, for some people, it's just now call after call, 4 weeks time, from morning to evening, just shooting emails to everyone and hoping that you would hit that term sheet in the last after a couple of weeks. For some folks, it's just 6 months of process, preparing everything, talking, going to lunches. I think it's up to the entrepreneur and the founder to fundraise in his own speed or timeline. I don't think there's a universal truth of how to successfully fundraise. Sometimes it's just lucky. I mean, you have to be at the right time where the fund is active and certainly investing the certain area that your startup is into. So I would say fundraising has been, always will be a challenge. And yeah, other than that, I think that all things we have been doing pretty well. I don't think there's a certain area where we have challenges. Of course, I wish to have more people on the team. I wish someone who could take my marketing tasks on everyday basis, creating content, on social media, creating newsletters. And we have some Filipino-based employees, freelancers who are helping us. But of course, I would wish someone to take that from me. So I think the first challenge is fundraising. The second challenge is how I could
Scale yourself up.
outsource my task to other people on the team. And technology wise, I think that we are 100% with on top of everything. My co-founder has been great, and we have been working together for the last couple of years. Like, luckily, this is one of the, I think, one of my first co-founders which I didn't have any, let's say, experiences with. We've been through good and bad times, and he's always there, and he's just like 100% focused on his work, delivering the best software for our customers. And luckily, I'm not in a position to say that I have anything negative to say about my co-founder experience. Now, with this particular co-founder, I had some pretty bad experience in my previous startups with other co-founders. But yeah, all things considered, I think I'm experienced enough to see risk of certain areas. And yeah, the only challenge that we're seeing now is how to and fundraise and to keep the money always enough in the company.
Interesting. So how hard was it to find a co-founder after having it not work out in the last outing?
I think it's just pure luck. I mean, pure, like, you don't know a person, even if it's your wife and your kid. Like, you don't know a person. Like, I don't know my parents that well. I don't know that if I know 100% of my wife or my kid. I don't know that for 100%. Like, your co-founder you have just to be lucky, I think. There are, of course, certain ways to protect yourself when creating a company with vesting schedule for your co-founder, and vesting is, I think, the most popular mechanism to protect you as co-founders. But I met Wojciech while working at a blockchain development company, and certainly I was very upfront with him about many things. I think that keeping the relationship with the co-founder transparent, I think that is the core to successful co-founder relationship. And I think that also comes down to the relationship with our wives and our spouses. That's especially true with your co-founder. Having learned my lessons in the past, I think that is most critical thing to do is always to be transparent with your your co-founder, open about challenges, open about any shortcomings from your side as you as a co-founder. But a lot of it comes to luck in terms of who you're going to meet down your career path that is going to be your perfect co-founder.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to who you get exposed to. Very hard to control that. Very hard to
Yeah.
control that.
Now, you have to be open, of course, about meeting new people and generally to talk to a lot of people and exchange ideas. But I'm not, luckily now in the position to find or meet any new co-founders. I think we are pretty good as we are right now. But if I didn't have one, then I would just be going to conferences, meetups, speaking to people, friends of friends. Your co-founder, if you are a single founder and wishing to have a co-founder, he's always somewhere there, and you just have to expose yourself to the possibility to meet your co-founder.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, I'm not a tech co-founder. I have sales and strategy and fundraising. I think it's super hard to find a tech co-founder who is both understands business in general, is willing to quit that well-paid software engineering job to make literally zero money and risk their career with a founder that has just an idea on paper. So it's,
That is true. There is some luxury to being an engineer to have a lot of opportunities, but the market is changing. Although it's changing to a point where engineers might be obsolete.
yes.
Not really. And I see a lot of conversation on LinkedIn, especially about how easy it is to develop, but at the same time, the architecture, scaling the application, all that is not going anytime.
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I always tell my friends that you can use AI to create your own software and then start selling that. I mean, sell first and then develop second. But it's going to be just 10x better if your co-founder, CTO, who has a tech background, also has access to Copilot. It's just going to be 10x better. There's no discussion there. Like, I can just write some shitty software and I may probably sell that, but then later on, like I'm going to scale that, how I'm going to scale thousands and dozens of thousands of people and have the infrastructure and that doesn't have tech debt and is works seamlessly and without bugs. Like, there's no way I'm going to do that.
Yeah, no, totally. And so we've covered a lot. It's time for rapid fire. I'm going to keep it simple, but
Okay.
few quick fire questions. One book that changed your entrepreneurial journey.
The hard things about
Hard things.
hard things.
Yeah, that's a classic. One tool that is absolutely crucial for you as a founder CEO.
I've been looking a lot into Mixmax and what our users have been doing in the app. I do use that a lot, Mixmax, for checking in on how our software is doing in general.
Mixmax. I thought it was an email tool. It's a web analytics tool.
It's a user analytics
It's
tool.
a user analytics tool. I'll check it out. One piece of advice you would give to people starting out in their entrepreneurial journey.
Be patient. All things gonna solve themselves through time.
Be patient and survive.
Yeah. That comes down to perseverance and also survival. But I think that the essence is that it's unlikely that you're gonna have like hockey stick growth from day one. So just be patient.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. That was it. Thanks for doing this. It was a fun chat, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, Fishers. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Cool. Thanks. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. See you in the next episode.